Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We are just going to wait for a few more people to join the call. Just give it like 2 more minutes and then we'll dive straight in because I'm just conscious of your time. We have, a lot to get through today, a lot of exciting topics to discuss, and then we should hopefully have 5-10 minutes at the end to do some Q&As because I know some people have some very great questions to ask as well. Unfortunately, Sophie is just having some technical difficulties, so she will join as soon as she can, but I didn't want to wait you all to wait, so we'll kick off in a short while. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you all. I'll give it till 5 past and then we'll go. Okay, I'm going to kick off if that's all right with everyone else. Is that okay with you and you, Ben and Tom, if we go?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's kick it off. So, I wanted to introduce myself first because there's a lot of new names that I didn't recognise on the attendance list. So thank you and welcome for joining this fantastic webinar that we are hosting today with 3Search. So hi everyone, I'm Liv. I head up our social media and influencer marketing desk here at 3Search. So 3Search are a specialist go-to-market recruitment agency, and here we help businesses at all stages across all industries. We've got consumer, D2C, professional services, and tech to build out their entire revenue engine. Now, since joining here over a year ago, I've worked hard to grow a community within this space, from holding coffee and chat meetings, which I'm sure a lot of you here today have been on, including all my speakers. I've met you all for a coffee and a chat, which is just my favorite thing to do, as well as I've spoken at some other events and also attended lots of networking hubs because I just love to mingle. But this is where I also find some of the best talent on the market. Alongside that, I obviously work closely with both brands and agencies across social, content, and influencer space, from high growth startups all the way through to your really more established businesses, to help them build the teams that are behind the modern content and growth marketing that we see every day and everywhere around us. I've partnered some really cool agencies like Summers and Creative Collective Agency, as well as some really cool brands, including Rise and Fall, ClearScore, and Bella and Duke. So I spend a lot of time speaking to businesses about how social, creator, and content strategies are evolving commercially, which we'll be talking a lot about today. One thing that's become really clear over the last couple of years, which I'm sure every single one of you have seen, is that influencer marketing is no longer just a brand awareness channel. It's increasingly becoming measured against growth, revenue, and performance, which is exactly what we're going to get into today. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and hear from all our panel on where this space is heading next. So I'm going to pass over to Ben, if he wouldn't mind introducing himself, and then Tom can follow after. Thank you.
Thank you, Liv. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you, and thanks so much for joining us today. Super excited to get into all of this and discuss as much as we possibly can. I'm Ben. I'm the Senior Partnerships Director at GUNG. GUNG is a PR, social, and influencer agency, and we're working really closely with fashion, sports, and lifestyle brands. My background is very much focused solely in the talent and influencer space, previously heading up talent for ASOS, and then also working in numerous agencies like Carla Otto and Kyra, working with a plethora of brands across fashion, beauty, lifestyle, sports, pets, you name it. So yeah, super excited to get into it today and see what we can discuss further.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom. I'm co-founder at Gifta. We started the business 6 years ago now, after noticing a gap in the market within the wonderful world of influencer gifting. My background is in actually performance marketing right at the beginning. And then I fell in love with the world of influencer after building my own Instagram account to 160,000 followers. And then I spent a couple of years working in paid controlled world of influencer marketing after noticing the gap within influencer gifting seeding without brand control. And started Gifta to give brands a completely new channel in order to reach consumers and new communities. A bit like Ben, we gift all types of products for lots of different brands. If it's food, if it's hair, cosmetics, beauty, all the way through to sports brands as well. So anything that we can put lovely, anything that we can make look lovely in a box and send out, we will send that out to the influencers on the behalf of some of the UK's biggest brands. So yes, very, very much looking forward to going through these great questions that have been put together, and then hopefully we've got lots of time to run through any questions anybody has off the back of it as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so we've got some really exciting people speaking today. Sophie is not here at the moment, but she will join, and hopefully we can give her a mini second to introduce herself, because I know she's got a fantastic career that I would love you to hear about. So I think we just delve into it. And quick question, Tom, I'd love it if we could start with you first. Like, what do you think you have seen change in the last 12 months in this space?
I think as a whole, the biggest changes I've seen are the kind of the focus on micro and nano influencers from macro and mid tier, which is really exciting. We now, we live in a world where we have access to hundreds and thousands of micro and nano influencers across lots of different communities across the whole of the UK, and allowing brands to have the opportunity to work with them is easier than it's ever been before. So I think micro nano is a really big shift. I think when I first started working marketing, influence marketing, the focus was always on paying influencers and controlling the output. And I think that's all changed now, and being able to give the influencers the freedom to create the content they really want to create is allowing brands to connect with influencers on a much deeper level. Consumers have become, I would say, very not necessarily bored, but become frustrated with controlled output from influencers and hashtag ad. And I think more so than ever now, consumers want to hear from trusted voices. And I don't think you get more trusted voice in an influencer that may only have 3,000 followers that's highly connected to their audience. So yeah, very interesting shift in the world of micro and nano. The other biggest thing is that the algorithms now aren't necessarily favoring how many followers you have. So now these smaller creators, they have the opportunity to not just connect with their own audience. If the content works, they get to reach much larger audiences through viral content too. So yeah, massive shift, exciting shift.
Yeah, thank you. No, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely an exciting pattern we're seeing, and I'm excited to see what that also transpires into in the future. But yeah, I'd love to hear your side of it, Ben. What have you seen change in the last 12 months?
Yeah, I totally agree with Tom. Like, we're definitely seeing a massive increase in brands wanting to work with micro, nano creators, and more so kind of those larger brands. I think previously it was a lot of kind of startups and kind of growing brands that were activating those smaller creators due to budgets or kind of not feeling that they could access bigger talent. But now seeing kind of more of your international global partners activating at that scale is definitely a change that I've noticed. I think another part that I'm also seeing, especially from the retail sector, is a higher demand of us being able to prove that ROI, the magic buzzword that everybody wants to get within influencer marketing. And I think in the space, especially within retail for so many years, there has been maybe a hyperfixation on that cultural piece and that brand awareness piece. And I think as the market is changing and as sales are changing in the market, I think we're seeing companies and global companies wanting to have more of a granular understanding of exactly how is influencer working for them as a business.
Yeah. Perfect. No, thank you. And Ben, it's back to you again for the next question. Sorry to keep you speaking there, but no, I think solid answers there from both of you. And yeah, I think excited to now delve into the topic. So the first one's more about like, yeah, influencer as now like a growth engine, or is it just spend? So the first question is, you know, commercial growth is a buzz in this space right now, which is why we're all here. It's what we're all talking about. But where do you see brands still underutilizing influencer?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm seeing brands not really utilize influencer in multi-channel execution. I think we're seeing a lot of brands still executing creator content through social channels. And I think it's really important to explore kind of how we can take that further out of the social sphere. You know, there's so much content that can be created through either UGC creators, you know, or just influencers in a global capacity. We're seeing it slightly with them starting to appear in campaigns or starting to show up in, you know, TV ads and cinema ads. But I think that it can really get pushed further. You know, we do paid media, but it's how do they show up in email marketing, you know, through CRM, how are they website? I think it's really important to really think of the user journey as like a complete process. And I think sometimes we just stop at the social post and don't really go any further than that. And I think as a audience and as a customer, you wanna build that authenticity, that connection, and you want to continue that journey for them to help them buy and convert to a customer. So I think for me, yeah, it's mainly about making sure that brands are really doing and executing a multi-channel strategy.
I love that. Great answer. Yeah, I'm backing that all day. So thanks for that advice. Tom, what do you think on that one?
Yeah, I think multi-channel is really important. I think what we're seeing more so than ever now is scale. The brands, especially the big brands now, they want to scale their, especially their influencer gifting and seeding, because as in terms of output, when you can scale it and you can forecast the results out of it, then all of a sudden brands and their teams can really start to forecast what they can get out of it in terms of like content, impression volumes, engagements. I think being able to hit new communities is a new one as well. So brands don't want to just work with a select amount of influencers anymore. They want to, you know, widen the net, so to speak, and get the products into the hands of the right people. I think the point on growth, it's moved from sales now, because before it's all about impressions and sales, whereas now it's really looking at your influencers that you're working with and understanding what other value can we get out of them. And I think that's really important too. Influencers they're people, they're human beings, and they give us the ability to learn so much more than a billboard or a TV ad or a print a piece in the newspaper. And therefore, if brands can open themselves up and start thinking of these individuals as consumers first and influencers second, it enables them to learn so much more than just seeing their content. And I think that's really important too. We're seeing some wonderful things occur from understanding more about product application, understanding more about trends, product development. Feedback is coming directly and straight through to the brands we're working with. And ultimately, if you're going to gift your product to 5,000 micro nano influencers, we need to understand what they like, what they don't like, how the product can be made better in the future, what competitors' brands they're using. So that word growth really needs to be opened up to see how do these wonderful people add value to the entirety of my business, versus how it used to be is sending a product to them, paying them, and telling them what to say and do. I think now we're really starting to learn about those aspects. And then I think ultimately it's making sure that all this wonderful user generated content and storytelling is created, but also then amplified as well. So we're seeing it more so across all of the campaigns that we're working on. Allow the influencers to do the storytelling, allow them to create the consideration, and then strategically amplify that content in the right places in order to drive it full funnel. And I think all those key things, then we really start to see brands winning. And I think lots of the brands we're working with right now, they really do see influencer, especially nano and micro, because there's not huge risks of cost risks associated to it. They become a foundation of your marketing. So they create that wonderful story and that storytelling, and they create wonderful feedback that we can help build our businesses to be stronger in the future.
Wow. No, definitely. And I think we touched on that in a little while about, involving the creators a little bit more in the content and the campaigns, etc. So I think I'm just going to go into the next part, which is the structure. So, the hiring structure, the internal shift, because I've definitely seen it turn around, and I'm sure you all have, where influencers sat, where it's now sitting. Is it going to get a bigger seat at the table? So first question, if I could come to you, Tom, where should influencers sit to drive revenue? Sorry, where should influencers sit, to drive revenue, not just awareness now?
I think influence needs to sit in its own professional channel, and we're seeing that now as the industry becomes more professional. There's lots of different budgets come from lots of different places, and influencer marketing, the output of influencer marketing provides value across all different channels. And now I'm seeing lots of different teams when they run a campaign with us. More so than ever, we have more people on our end of campaign reports because we have different teams coming in to say who else can utilize this content, and where else can we add value to our business, and that's the same with the shift with overall growth as well, which is really exciting.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think influencer marketing should sit as its own team, but I think for me, my viewpoint and from brands that I've worked with, I think it's really important that that team sits within that wider marketing department to really help make sure that throughout everything that influencer team is doing is being shared and integrated across the entire business. I think from brands that I've worked in and where you have seen influencer to be a completely separate team, sometimes it becomes a bit isolating. And I think that is mainly due to the fact that we forget that influencer marketing compared to other marketing streams is relatively new, and so not everybody is aware of kind of what you can do with influencer marketing and the assets and the content that can be generated from it. And so it's not that anybody is purposefully creating a little bit of isolation when it comes to talent and influencer. I think there is not so much an education internally of how that can be properly utilized and used throughout different streams and without different departments. And I think bringing the team as its whole entity and its whole unit into that wider marketing department can only hopefully better bridge those connections between paid teams, the product teams, throughout the entire business, and to also have the support of a marketing director and the senior leadership as well to really help push. But I also think to Tom's point as well, it's also about making sure that there's the budget there available to support that team, and also there needs to be also flexibility in budget in other areas that can also support that influencer team, because there are times where they will produce a piece of content and you might see one team will say, oh my gosh, that's an amazing piece of content, we want to utilize that, or we've got some spend to do a specific product or a service push on X, so can we utilize that? So I think there needs to be that greater connection across all different departments with how budget is spent across talent and influencer, and how you can really use that efficiently and effectively.
Yeah. Fab. No, I definitely agree. And coming back to that point then, just a spin-off question. Ben, obviously you've worked in-house, you've worked agency, and you've sat within that team. We're now saying obviously that they are a team of their own, and they get, them teams are getting bigger and wider and bulkier, but they still need to sit in a marketing team. Would you like to see it more sat on the organic side or more on the paid performance side? Where would you see it? Yeah.
For me, I don't necessarily think it can be so kind of down the line split. I think it's about creating an effective team that is able to cross over into both areas to really kind of utilize it in the best way, because we have some people who are influencer strategists, you have influencer managers, you have all of these different roles. And I think it's really about honing all of that skill set and bringing it in together to really get the most out of what we're doing with influencer.
Definitely. Tom, do you have a point on that at all, or from an outside in that sense?
I agree with Ben. Nothing seems to have a direct line straight down the middle at the moment. And I think it's how we can support influencer marketing teams to basically bring the two together, if it's performance based, if it's earned or organic, to basically create the right structure for a specific business. I think that's really important too. The other shift I've seen in regards to kind of internal marketing teams is the shift of influence that junior and mid management have as well. I would say that our biggest advocates within the clients that we work with, they haven't been in work very long, and they have their fingers on the pulse, and they're utilizing all these different forms of media. They're going to all of these events, and they are very much the ones that are pushing their internal stakeholders to be trying out new things as well. And they're the ones I think we should be supporting the most in helping sell into the other stakeholders.
Fab. Thank you. No, definitely. And it's interesting to see where that's going to go in the next year, 2 years, and even in the next 6 months with how brands and agencies are growing. So looking at, hiring at the moment, whether that's yourself, your company, or what you see across the trends, what skills are you now seeing that is a non-negotiable in this space? Over to you, please, Ben.
Yeah, I think it's relatively a simple one for me. There's definitely, you want somebody who is culturally tapped in, who's kind of, online. But for me, that non-negotiable, it really does come down to administration and organizational skills. I think a lot of people really underestimate how admin heavy the role that we do working with influencers. So I think a lot of people can definitely see it from the outside and see it as a glamorous and exciting job, which it is, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, we get to experience some incredible experiences. But it is also reminding yourself that at the end of the day, you are going to be in the office the next day after an event or after a project has launched, and you need to be able to, make sure your POs are going, make sure everyone's contracts are done, making sure that everyone's being paid and invoices are processed. There is a real kind of skill to that. And so for me, that is something that I need to have within any team that I'm making.
Such a valid point. I think you're so right. It's so glamorous and it's so exciting. You get to work with some amazing people. But yeah, I think when I'm working with clients, a lot of the non-negotiable skills are still organization, being able to make sure they're on time with the contracts and the deliverables after all the glamorous stuff's happened at the shoot the day before. So yeah, definitely bang on there. Tom, do you have a point on that at all about what skills you think are non-negotiables at the moment?
Yeah, I think the key things are, especially as we're hiring a whole range of people at any given point at Gifta, and I think it's willingness and passion are some of the key things for us. Is are these great people willing to get involved with things? Are they showing passion in the industry? And the other thing is, it's kind of like what I'm seeing on the kind of the more senior side is lots of people can talk a good game. Everybody can talk about strategy and doing this and doing that, but very, very few will actually do. They'll roll their sleeves up and get involved and do things. And I think it doesn't really matter, especially the way that I suppose the employment market is right now. It's really important for all kind of levels of staff to be thinking outside of the box and to be getting on with things and doing things, and not just coming up with wild ideas, just doing them. And the other key thing I'm really enjoying from especially my team is this acceptance of failure. I think now, especially in the world of influencer and very much in marketing, we forget that marketing is all about test and learn. It's all about trialing different things out. And influencer is moving so quickly that we have to be testing lots of different things out, and I want my team to be celebrating failure, because failure means we're pushing ourselves and we're learning. Failure on the same thing is a bad thing, but I had a call the other day with my team, and it's kind of like we got to a point of doing something. We realized that we'd kind of pushed ourselves to the limits on something, and the mindset in the team is changing now, because it's kind of like, right, we've done this, but we've learned this, and that means we're going to be doing this next in a different way. And I think that's really exciting too. I think those kind of mindsets and growth mindsets in the team, and not being afraid to make decisions, because I think some people can sit on the fence and not do things. And I'd far rather someone come to me and say, Tom, we've tried this, it hasn't really worked. I was like, well, great, what are we going to do next time? And then they throwing more ideas, and that with that just comes consistent growth in marketing, and that's what we need.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're so right. Like, it's ever changing, this landscape. Trends are coming out every day. So it's like you have to jump on it and try it. If it works, it works. Great. If it doesn't, okay, switch it up. Let's try something new. But yeah, it sounds like we just need like proactive, organized, passionate people in the industry, which is great. But no, I think coming off the back of that, they're great skills to have. What hiring mistakes do you see, that holds teams back at the moment? I think I work with various different clients and brands, and I have these conversations constantly when I'm taking on new briefs. But I think it'd be good to hear from your perspectives, because I know you've both been in the hiring positions before. I think, Tom, would you mind if we start with you on this one?
Yeah, no, that's good. We until I actually started Gifta, I hadn't really employed many people in previous roles, so I hadn't really been in a management position. So hiring for me was it's a very new thing, and I think you can become so focused on certain things to look for. But I read a really good book called The Effective Hiring Manager. And it essentially teaches you that you should focus on looking for no's in interviews and stop looking at yeses, because it's far too easy to say, yes, this person's good at this, yes, this person's good at that. But if you focus on the no's, and you can then you can filter out who really will be good for your company. And then when you're speaking to colleagues, when you're interviewing together, and you can both run through those no's together, then you can really start discussing those things. And it's not until you start looking for the no's that you really start to notice them. So yeah, I'm focusing on that at the moment. Stop getting excited about the yeses and start looking for the no's.
Yeah, I think also the no's then can really make you know what you're looking for. That them no's, every time they come up, you then, oh, actually, I didn't think that was what I was looking for. And next minute, the job description's changed all over. But that's the great thing of hiring. But yeah, Ben, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, no, I mean, totally agree with Tom on that. And I think that's such a great mindset to take into the hiring process. I think, touching again on what Tom said previously, I think in terms of passion, I think like we really underestimate that need and that skill, but also the social aspect of this role. You are normally working and interacting with human beings, and you are becoming the face of a brand essentially at times. You are going to be selling, you are going to be meeting with these individuals and trying to get them on side for the brand, at times going to events, going networking. And I think you really do need to have somebody who believes in the brand or the agency that they're working for them to really kind of be committed to that work. And I think at times we hate to say it, but the role isn't necessarily a 9-to-5 job. Like, there are times where it does extend beyond that, and it might be just jumping on to answer a quick email, or it might be going to an event. And if you don't have the passion and you don't have the hunger for the place that you are working for, you are not going to excel or exceed in that place. And so I think it's really, really important that when you are hiring, you're not diminishing or undervaluing how important that is for you and your team.
100%. No, thank you. Really valuable insights there on the hiring front. So that topic's done. We're going to now dive into like the CFO lens of things and budget, because that is like the biggest area that I think we're seeing at the moment. I know that, if you're working in-house, trying to tap on that door to the CFO and getting these big budgets for some of these creators and influencers without the explanation as to why can be quite tricky. So anyone listening that needs tips, hopefully this is helpful. But I think, Tom, if we could start with you, like, what do you think a CFO actually needs to see, to unlock that budget on that campaign or ongoing campaigns? Sorry, Tom, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Thank
okay?
you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think we've seen another shift in the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months, in that senior stakeholders being more interested in the world of influencer and starting to understand all the different value points they can add. What do they really need to see to unlock budget? I think they really need to see the forecasted output and the ability to be able to compare against different channels as well. I think that's the key one. Especially the world of influencer gifting used to be so wasteful and they didn't get much from it. But we can go into brands now, or we work with lots of agencies, and we can tell them exactly, if we're going to gift to 1,000 influencers, we know 800 of them are going to post. We know we're going to drive 2,000 to 3,000 pieces of content. We know how many eyeballs we're going to get on that content, and then we can really understand the value of the content that's been generated in order to amplify it further. And when you can kind of add those different elements together and you can forecast the output, like I don't think we've seen before in influencer gifting, then it makes it a much more easier sell to those internal stakeholders. I think there's the other big shift has been the news with Unilever, which is one of our clients actually with Dove, and Unilever has come out and they've said, they're going to put 50% of their budget into social, and they want people to be selling their brands, not just Unilever selling their brands. I think CFOs and other senior C-suite in lots of businesses now, they are really realizing that the true power in word of mouth marketing is people, and if you can put your product into the hands of the right people, they can do the selling for you. So yeah, it's I'd say forecasting, scale, I think are the key things, and that kind of peer-to-peer selling is a key one too.
Fab. Thank you. Ben?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, forecasting, setting measurable KPIs, and making sure that everything that you are gonna spend money on, you can showcase what that kind of output is going to be and what you expect that to be. I mean, my top tip is always whatever you think it's gonna be, reduce it by 10% so that you can always over deliver. I also think that a lot of the time we often expect a CFO to automatically get it and understand it. And I think what we really need to sometimes work on is bringing them along for the journey. Like there is an education piece that needs to be done, because some CFOs might be going into all of these different businesses and influencer marketing wasn't a piece in their previous place. And so I think it's really unfair to automatically assume that they're going to completely understand when we go for a budget request and say it's going to give you XYZ measurement and results, and for them to then plug holes and question this and question that. So I think it's really making sure to take that time to listen to that CFO, but also take the time to also educate and bring them along with you to that journey and help them understand why it's important and why the business needs it. Because I do see a lot of time that people just go straight in with, this is the budget and this is why it's going to cost you this and this is what we're going to get, sign it off. And I think it's really, unfair that happens, and we have to really think back and be a bit more self-aware and understand that we sometimes exist in our little echo chamber of influencer marketing, and actually we need to take a step out and bring everybody else in.
Great answer. Yeah, 100%. They just want to know. They don't understand it, sometimes, and they just want to. That's their money. That's their job. So I'd get it. If you take them on the journey, they'll understand it, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, have it all." Hopefully. And then next really is like how you would prove it, because I think that's where we're going. Is quite a all about the stats and the ROI and etc. And I think, coming to you, I think we could start with you if you don't mind, Tom. Like, how would you say it's proven? How do you actually prove it's driving new revenue?
Yeah, so there's different things we can do. I mean, we track every piece of content that's generated across Instagram and TikTok as our core focus. We work with lots of different brands. I'll give you an example at the moment. We're doing a lot of work for Hire and Hoover. So they do a lot of white goods, and they also do lots of appliances around the home. We can do two things. We can kind of look at like a halo effect, whereby you can run a campaign with 500 micro nano influencers. You can see the uplift in output from those 500. You can see the content, you can see the impression volumes, you can see the engagements, you can see the conversations that are happening. And then if you work with these brands quite closely, you can quite easily see the shift in sales from like a week or even a few days after some of these campaigns go live. So we can, it's quite hard to attribute everything to, especially to organic, but you can quite easily see those organic attributions. But then you can use promo codes, you can use links for influencers to use and raise awareness of. But the other thing is, as I said before, is tagging on paid media and partnership ads. If you've got 500 influencers that you're gifting to, and they've created 1,000 pieces of content between them, then if we start putting paid spend behind some of that content and start testing it out, then we can turn those individual posts into through the funnel ads that can kind of help drive further consideration and sales for the brand as well. And they have UTM tags onto them, so we can drive them through to site, we can drive them through to Amazon, and then we can quite clearly see the sales uplift through those specific influencers. But I would always say, and I say this to brands all the time, is utilize the influencers to create the trust, right? This is the key thing we need to focus on. Brands have been controlling messaging for such a long period of time, and consumers don't trust brands like they used to. So what is the key thing that we're utilizing influencers for is for them to build trust with their audience for that particular brand, and that storytelling needs to be as trustworthy as it can be. So if we can allow the influencers the freedom to create that trust, and then we can utilize that content to drive that trust through funnel by doing different things with paid partnership ads, then we start winning as the influencer wins, the brand wins, and the consumer wins as well.
Wow, thank you. What about you, Ben? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely echoing again what Tom says in terms of like paid partnership ads, affiliates, like these are all like the very easy ways of being able to prove that kind of direct spend, I think. And just as like my top thought is, from working in an agency, I do think that brands also need to get closer with their agency to share spend data and to help us be able to help them to prove that that there is this revenue being generated. But I also think it's also important for us to not always see revenue as an immediate spend. Like the piece of influence that is for sure on creating content and influencing customers to go and purchase product, but there is also the job where they are influencing a customer to go and buy a product in a month's time or in a year's time through that consideration piece. And I think we have to, for sure be on it to make sure that we're proving that revenue for today, tomorrow, for the week, but also really understanding that there is that piece to be done that goes beyond that immediate metrics and kind of what we're seeing when we're working in a paid capacity or we're working on like an organic gifting. Like there's sometimes that we might not be able to directly correlate and pinpoint that customer bought that shampoo because they saw an influencer post about it a month ago and they've been waiting for payday, so they put it on the back burner. Like there's so many other ways that you can really think about it. And I think the more that we kind of expand our thoughts and kind of expand our thinking around what is revenue within influencer, the greater picture you can create, which is, yes, we've generated this much revenue, but also, you know, we can make sure that we are building that consideration piece. And that is where, you know, pieces like mixed media modeling and kind of working with ROAS come in to kind of support all of that. But I think it's really important that we're not always just fixed on the immediate answer.
Nice. I think that really blends nicely into like quick fire question of like, what's one metric that you think we should stop obsessing over? I don't know if Tom, we could fly to you first. You might both have the same answer here, but let's just have a quick fire round on that one. One metric that we should stop obsessing over to you, please, Tom.
I think in terms of metric, I would stop focusing on impression volumes. I think that's a really key one. I think everyone keeps saying, you know, how many impressions has it got? I think with video now, we're seeing more and more people interested in real views as a kind of a better understanding of engagement and interest in a product too. And I think there are so many impressions that are lost to audiences that aren't interested. And I'd use this as an example with macro influencers. If they've got 1 million followers, for example, if you've got a product in the UK and you use a macro influencer, they may only have 20%, maybe 30% of their audience are in the UK. So you have a huge amount of impression volumes that are wasted in that particular country. That marketing budget, if it's coming from a kind of a UK team, they're having so many impressions lost. And I think now we're seeing more so than ever that there's so much more importance in, especially with micro and nano, because they have this stronger connection to their communities, but those communities live in and around the same places that they do as well, and therefore those engagements, if it's a real view or if it's a comment on a post, they just have so much more value to them, other than just, you know, pure impressions that might not be able to drive value for that specific business.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks. And I think quite be similar, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts on that are, Ben.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to say this one metric in the sense of when brands and agencies use it in isolation and just on its own. And for me, that's EMV. I think that we forget that actually there is so much that really kind of needs to be going into that and supporting EMV, because a lot of the time EMV can also, you can have somebody talking trash about your brand, but your EMV is sky high because you've got loads and loads of people talking about you. So I think we really need to make sure that when we are looking at EMV, we're taking comment sentiment into that, we're taking engagement, we're taking all of like everything into consideration, and actually what is the context of that EMV.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. I think that's really useful for people to be listening to, especially if they're early on in their career and trying to figure out where they land. But I've just got one more question to end it on, and then we can just go to a quick, if people are still around, a quick Q&A round, which will be really nice to finish on. So my last and punchy question, I'll start with you, Ben, if you don't mind, is what's the next big trend that you think we're moving towards in this space?
It's an interesting one. I definitely think we're going to see a lot more brands utilizing UGC in a lot more than they already are. You know, there's so many brands that are already doing it, but I just think we're going to see it more and more, and utilizing of communities, but also extending that to like integrating with WhatsApp communities as well, and getting deeper and further connected with audiences and customers. And so I think that's definitely going to be something. My rogue one out there is going to be actually creators utilizing LinkedIn for brand deals more and more.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Yeah, love them ones. Tom, what do you think that we're going to see as a next trend?
I think scale scale is going to come into it, especially for micro and nano, where brands, they've been used to maybe working with maybe 20 or 50 influencers a month, and then all of a sudden they want 500 or 1,000 a month. I think that's going to become an interesting one. I also agree with community. Community is a huge one for Unilever. So they want scale, but then they also, because they want their product into the hands of lots of different people, but they also want to hone in on those that actively work with them or are interested in multiple activations with them throughout a whole year. And if we can take 5,000 that have gifted, and then we can work our way down to how many of those 5,000 have been on 10 campaigns for Dove for the last 18 months or 2 years, then we can tap into that community, and we can learn so much more from them. And I think now that brands have really started to move from that spray and pray effect to actually, who are the ones that keep talking about us, who are the ones that love us the most, and how do we continue to engage with them in order to further connect with consumers on a deeper level.
No, thank you so much. And first of all, thank you to both of you. Like, that was super insightful, and I'm hoping everyone got something out of that, even if it was one topic to absolutely everything we covered. So I'm thinking if we could just stay on for 5 minutes, any Q&As that we can do. There is a Q&A box at the top. If you want to pop any questions you've got in there, if you want to direct it to a certain person, or keep it general and we can figure it out, you're more than welcome to, or I can pop you off mute. But yeah, if you can pop any questions you're keen to chat about, and we can go from there. Or maybe there's none and we covered everything, which is great.
I don't think we're having any yet.
I know. No questions. Everyone's... Oh, we've got one.
Is this a HFSS question?
Yeah. So have you seen HFSS food brands that are being able to use influencers in a compliant and effective way? Good question.
That's a really good question. So at Gifta, 60% of our clients are food clients. So we gift to lots of different brands, but our biggest is food by far, and that's because we have chilled and frozen fulfillment capabilities, so we can send all food out to micro nano influencers on a really big scale. Now, the interesting thing with HFSS is that we know very clearly that there are restrictions now based on controlled paid influencer marketing. Yet there are opportunities within gifting and seeding. We've actually done quite a lot of work with the ASA, CAP, CMA as well on this, and I'm actually going to Leeds this week to speak to Leeds University about this exact topic as well. We now have flexibility within the new rules that clearly states that as long as the product is not made for guaranteed content, then we have flexibility in influencer gifting and seeding, because it basically then falls into earned media. If it's not being controlled, and the influencer is not obligated to post or not post, or say positive or negative things, they're completely free, or they don't even have to post at all. It cannot go down as advertising. It's not an advert. There's no contract involved, and there is no commitment from the influencer that they're going to post. So currently we are running gifted campaigns for our food brands, and working very closely with the ASA. But I would say that the new rules definitely make it clear that there is flexibility, as long as there's no guaranteed output from the influencer before you gift it to them.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that, Tom. And thanks, Nadine, for that question. It's really interesting. And I'm sure a few people have come up with that topic at the moment. Not got any more questions. If anyone wants to be confident and raise their hand. Oh, I have, sorry. Thank you, Courtney. As governments start to tighten social media regulations, so Meta's lawsuit, China's influencer laws, tax regulations, how do you think this will affect influencer marketing and reshape how consumers engage with and trust social media platforms? If anyone wants to take that.
I suppose I can try my best and
Thank
answer
you.
it. I think it's a topic that is constantly around in influencer marketing. We see it coming up a lot. There's always the news kind of speculation and media love, like anything in terms of like, okay, how is TikTok's going to get taken down in the US, or we're seeing TikTok being removed from India or wherever it is. And I think that realistically for me right now, like, I don't think it's really going to impact us as much as we originally think it is going to completely impact us, because, you know, influencer is such a mass kind of, it's a global by nature, platform. And so really for us to be able to just kind of pinpoint it to one location is always going to be difficult for us. And so I think like a lot of consumers will be looking into this and into like the lawsuit and looking into licensing laws and tax regulations and all of that, but I don't think it's really going to impact us on a mass scale completely.
Nice. Yeah, I think we see it a lot and it's popping up and down, and I think as long as we stay on top of it, then hopefully all should be good.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Ben. I think we've got one question from Amara, which I think both of you could answer, but I think Tom, obviously with your company and the products that you are, it says, how can we identify whether influencers are genuinely interested in the product and won't ghost us? Usually we see initially they show interest, but after receiving the product, they stop responding. Good question.
Yeah, this is a really, really, really good question. And when we started Gifta, the gap was in influencer gifting and seeding, but ultimately one of the biggest issues was exactly that. Is like lots of internal teams would be sending products out and they wouldn't be getting anything from it. It's the same with lots of brands also using PR agencies to do the same. So we noticed that's a big problem. There's lots of wastage. It comes down to a couple of things that we've done lots of testing over the years. The first is make sure that influencer is interested at the beginning. Make sure that they've agreed to receive your product. The second is make sure that when they open that box, they feel the love from your brand. So make sure it's curated personally to them. Make sure there's a handwritten note in there. Make them feel as soon as they open it, wow, this brand loves me, because you're not paying them. You're just trying to win them over. But it's still a big problem in the industry. At Gifta, our post rate is 80%. So if we send it out to 100, we have on average 80 out of the 100 posts. And the key thing we do here is we make them accountable. So with influencer gifting and seeding, we're not forcing anybody to post about anything. We literally say to them, if you love it, please feel free to create a piece of content. If you don't like it, please tell us why you don't like it, so there's a value exchange. Those two things, we just don't work with them again, and we take them off of our platform. And we think that works really well. But there is a real big problem with accountability and ghosting in the industry, and hopefully it's going to get better. But it's still a big problem.
I would also add to that. I think if you're a brand as well, I would say that from an organic gifting point of view, I wouldn't let it just stop there. I would think of like, how else are you engaging with creators and influencers? Like in previous places, we've created like an affiliates day where we've invited them all down to the showroom to create content and get access to product. And, I think sometimes it can be difficult when you are seeding out product and, they don't show that interest after. I think sometimes it's also making sure that they feel like there's something in return for them. Like maybe in the future they could be invited to something, or maybe there's an opportunity down the line that could also expose and open up to something else. So I think from what I've seen personally from working in the brand side, it's not about just sending out that product and just hoping they'll post it and then not speaking to them again. I think you really need to maintain that kind of communication and build that trust with them.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. Them answers are fantastic, and I hope that answered your question there, Mara. I'm going to leave it there, guys. It's nearly 5, so I know we've definitely gone over and we've lost a few people, but I just want to thank first of all both of you for joining. It's been fantastic, and I think you both brought such valuable insights. Obviously, I'll catch up with Sophie after. I've not tried to go on my WhatsApp, so I didn't get distracted, but I'm sure she apologizes. I think we had an issue, but thank you everyone for joining in as well. We have recorded this, so hopefully we can, you know, reach out to me if you want it. We can touch on some points, and yeah, hopefully I'll be in touch with you all soon. So thank you for joining. But thank you so much again, Ben and Tom, and thank you so much to everyone joining. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.